Hey, I see some faces on the screen. Is he? Somebody talk to me if you can hear me, please. I need a radio check.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't. Great. Okay. Excellent. We are cooking with gas. See a few people on the screen here. If anybody sees Guy Snodgrass, our speaker today, let me know. I'm still unable to make out fine detail. I got my very classy aviators on, so we're pulling off blindness in style here. Is my camera on?
Yeah, your camera's on.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a huge group today. I'll get into this later, but I think I need to broom the those bull sessions. You know, even at once a month, they cause a great deal of confusion. You know, when I cancel one, and I think people think that I've canceled the meetup, which is what happened this time. So, what are you going to do? Who else we got on the screen here? Guys, give me a quick roll call. I know my dad's here, but who else is with us? For those of you who don't know, I'm recovering from an eye injury, and I'm a little blind here. So we're kind of we're winging it a little bit today.
Chesty's up. I'm stuffing my face, so I turned my video off.
Chesty, how you doing, man? Is your dad with us today?
He's always doing this or that. He's retired twice, so you know.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you're getting ready to launch those kids to college, right? Well, you got another week or so.
No, they're two are at college, and one's moving out tomorrow and Saturday.
Holy cow! Believe it? It's their eye day.
Yeah, when they start complaining about we're being quarantined for our test, I'm like, they're not making you do push-ups, so hey.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Yeah, life could be worse. Whatever. How are we doing for time here? 59. All right, let's give everybody another minute or two. Like I said, I think it's going to be a smaller group than usual. I sent around a notice that I'd canceled the bull session that we had scheduled this week, and I think that created a little bit of confusion. So unfortunately, I think some people have got the idea that we've canceled the entire thing. But we're just going to have a bit of an ad hoc session today. I'm working without the usual preparation and notes since I can't see them. So we're just gonna. We're going to see if having done this 22 times already is any advantage. I think it might be at that. How are we doing for time here? Give him another minute. Yes, sir.
Story going on there. I like it.
Say it again.
You've got that Starsky and Hutch thing going.
Yeah, right. I borrowed. You should see what I've been wearing, man. I had these really cheap kind of mirrored shades, you know. They were a little bit darker, so they worked for me, but I just couldn't put them on today. You know, they were just a little bit too flash, you know, so I figured I'd go with my girlfriend's aviators instead.
Are you going to tell us a story or?
Yeah. I mean, I'll get to it in a few minutes, but I wish it were more exciting. It's just one of those things that's going to happen. You know, if you wear contact lenses and you stick your fingers in your eyes twice a day for years on end, sooner or later you're going to hurt yourself. Apparently that's what I did. But do we have Guy Snodgrass on the line? Anybody see him? Nope. Okay. All right. So we may be going without a speaker today. He may be one of the ones who got a little confused about whether or not we were still going today. All right. It's 8:01. Let's kick this thing off. How many people we got on screen? I got a full one here. So for those of you who are new joining us, you've found Ringknocker. Ringknocker started out life near the end of last year as a Facebook mentorship group for young officers who are preparing to transition off of active duty. When COVID came along, we pivoted and decided to try to use the platform that we'd established to sort of, help people connect and sort of get through this crisis together. So that's where we are now. We've done this. This is our 23rd Ringknocker virtual meetup in a row, which is astonishing to me, if nobody else, that we've continued it so long. But it's become a thing. So a bit of a destination. And thank you, by the way, to everybody who showed up. There was a great deal of confusion this week, and I might as well tell the story. So you can see by my fancy aviators here, I'm working a little bit blind this week. I suffered a rather significant eye injury to my right eye over the weekend. Basically, what it came down to was I stuck my fingers in my eye one too many times to replace my contact lenses and wound up lacerating my cornea with a hangnail or something. So I'm out here on Bali in Indonesia, which on the one hand is a little scary, far into the world. But on the other hand, what that means is that I can get the services of a senior immunology eye specialist at a hospital that specializes in eyes, plus medication for a day for a grand total of $50. So I've had a fair amount of specialist time with this and mending nicely. Can't actually see anything yet, but we're getting there. So I think by next week I'll have my new glasses because I'm staying away from contacts for a while, and then we'll be right back in the groups. So that's the big story as far as that goes. It's been an interesting experience though. You guys who've been around for a while, you've seen how this Ringknocker thing works. There are newsletters and there are all the various emails that come out and the videos, and you're really just a whole cycle of things. And I had a guy compliment me, very kind of him, complimented me a couple of weeks ago on the strength of my team doing all this. And I didn't have the heart to correct him because frankly, I don't have one. I have a part-time video editor who helps me with the video editing, I guess. And other than that, what I have is a system of automation that I've created that actually does most of this for me as long as I'm around to push the buttons, which means that you actually have to be able to see the buttons. So it's been a real wake-up call for me. Over the last week, as I've discovered most of my systems melting down simply because I wasn't personally able to push the buttons. And so, for those of us who have been in business for a long time and who are accustomed to, using other people's hands and other people's skills, that's probably a sort of a forehead slapper for you, like, hey, Willis Croft. But you've got to build the system before you can send somebody out to operate it, and hadn't quite got there yet. So now that is a strong priority for me to find somebody, probably here locally in Indonesia, to help me, operate the system and get this thing going strongly on a weekly basis, whether I can actually push the buttons or not. And who knows, maybe I could even take a vacation at that point. So that would be cool. I also want to thank all of you who reached out with well wishes and encouragement. It's been quite the week, and it's been just hard to describe how gratifying it's been to receive your encouragement. Dozens of you reached out to me, and I just very, very, very much appreciate it. So thank you so much for that. I'm on the mend, and thanks, shipmates. It's been really cool. So anyway, yes, sir. Oh, sorry, I thought I heard somebody speak. So all right, well, so now the big question: do we have Guy Snodgrass on the line? Okay, all right, we don't. So So no fault of his. Unfortunately this whole bull session meetup thing is confusing, and so we're just gonna have to go without him. But that's cool. We definitely have a routine. So in the absence of a speaker, let me quickly sort of lay out what to expect over the next possibly not as many as 90 minutes now. So basically what we do is we do the rounds and ask for updates from previous attendees. Normally what we'll do is we'll put people on the spot, get the deer in the headlights look, and ping them unawares. But this time I'm going to have to ask for volunteers because A, there's no list, and B, I couldn't read it if I had it. So we'll just do that. We typically do that for about 15 minutes. And then we go to new attendees and we ask you to tell a story. So that is, by the way, it's what we do here, right? So the mission here is we support our shipmates. We do that basically by telling stories. When it's your turn, we do an intro or an update, about 3 minutes, where we talk about what we're doing. In other words, what projects are you engaged in? What do you need to get those projects done? What opportunities have you created, right? So what problems have you solved? What do you got to offer, right? So we hope that a Ringknocker virtual meetup is that place where needs and opportunities meet. And so our job when we tell our stories is to lay those out, right? So at the end of the day, we are here to support one another and ideally to do business with one another. And so we want to get enough information out there that we can facilitate that. So we'll ask for intros from new attendees, and I think it is a small group today, so we'll probably get through those fairly quickly, and then we'll be able to share a short discussion, kick the ball around regarding anything that we've heard, and then typically we close right around 9:30. Might be a little bit early today just because the crowd is small, and so there won't be quite as much to go on as there typically is. But with that said, I guess there's only one person who I know for sure was going to be here, and that's my dad. Hi, Dad. I think most of you have met him, but he's going to be joining us here in a few weeks. Not sure of the exact date in the speaker's chair to share some exciting news about his upcoming book. But meanwhile, since he hasn't been with us for a while, Dad, you want to give us a bit of an update and tell us what's going on with you?
Well, thanks a lot. It's good to see all of you again. It's been a while since I've appeared on Ringknockers. As those of you who know about me, I'm not a Ringknocker. I did not go to the academy. I came up through a now defunct program called the NESEP program, the Navy Scientific Education Program. So I came through a different route than most of you, but I consider all of you shipmates, and it's a joy and a pleasure to meet with you from time to time. Yeah, as Jason said, since I've retired several times from the military and then from business and then this and that and the other thing, I found myself doing a lot of writing, and I've now got 14 books out. So I will be launching a sequel to Operation Ivy Bells, which was the story told on a first-person basis of the Ivy Bells project in novelized form. And I have a sequel to that coming out, and I'll be introducing that when I take over the program. We think on the 24th, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah, and I can endorse those. I'm a ferocious reader, and I love my dad's books. So those are definitely worth the read. Sea stories in the grandest sense of the word, sometimes even a little bit true. So right. So again, you guys will forgive me. I can't really see what's on my screen. So may I ask, are there any other previous attendees out there who would like to share a bit of an update? Tell us what you've been up to, what's new in your life. Where have your travels taken you?
I deliberately waited for the silence before I bumped in and said, "Hey, this is Bob Adams again."
Bob, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you. So I was one of your guest speakers talking about my book as a Navy SEAL, and
Yeah.
a whole lot of things have happened since then.
Boy,
And
I'll tell you what.
the most related to your father's adventure comment is that yesterday my second book was released by the audiobook people on Amazon and Kindle, well, through the Amazon audiobook program. So my second book, which is called Swords and Saints, A Doctor's Journey, looks back at 35 years of medicine at peace and at war in Iraq, and as a Delta Force surgeon, and then as a civilian doctor. Very excited that Audiobook bought the rights to produce the audiobook, and a marvelous professional actor has read my book for everybody to enjoy. And so it's available now as of yesterday, Swords and Saints, A Doctor's Journey by Robert Adams. So that's my big adventure in the author.
Well, that's pretty cool. Bob, I was gonna ask you if you'd done your own audio. You got that sort of gravelly voice. You know, that could have worked out pretty well.
Right. Well, I was allowed to interview the different potential professional readers, and I learned from my first book, which went audiobook early, that it's worth paying attention to who you get to read it. And Adam Lofblum, it's a name nobody will recognize, was selected. He's a voiceover professional and does a lot of acting and professional voiceover work himself. And my wife and I both went, I love his voice. So my story is told by a guy who makes me sound really intelligent.
Bob, so tell me something. When you're shopping for a guy to do basically to read your book of your life story, are you looking for a guy who sounds great, or are you looking for a guy who sounds kind of like you?
No, I'm looking for a guy who sounds great because, it's my story, but I want people to hear it so that it doesn't sound like me. It just needs to sound fun and interesting and engaging. And my first book, guy, and this is a little bit of information for people that might want to do this themselves. When you pick a reader to read for you, you want to pick one that cares about what he's reading, because you can read a book a bunch of different ways. You can go, hello, this is chapter 1, da 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 da, and then it went
the public radio version.
Exactly. I turned this way. So what I picked is somebody who's going to get engaged with the message and tell the story like he cares. So I picked a guy because my new book is 72 chapters of individual patient experiences. Some of them are old people, some of them are young people, some are children, some are my own wife and child that almost died in an operating room. And you've got to be able to have the child's voice and the mother's voice and the old guy's voice and all those different voices. So this is a voiceover professional, and I picked a guy who could make it sound alive.
Yeah. How about that? Well, Bob, you guys will forgive me. And I mentioned, or I guess Bob mentioned that he had been our previous speaker. How long ago was that, Bob? I guess about 3 months ago now.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. We've been doing it for this long. But Bob, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot for a minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, so when you came to talk to us a few months ago, the coronavirus epidemic was, I guess, from today's perspective, it was still sort of in its early stages. And, I think we were all still trying to figure out just how severe the thing was and trying to make sense of the news, right? And that was something that we all talked about a great deal during your talk was just what's true and what's not. And so I wonder, now that we're a couple of months down the line, I wonder if you're willing, if you could give us a minute or two and tell us, whether you're, have your positions changed at all? Do you feel like it's more of a threat, less of a threat? where do you stand these days as opposed to a couple of months ago?
Thank you. That does put me on the spot, but I don't mind having a conversation as some of my past patients have, asked me the same thing. When we first spoke of this in its early stages, my general assessment, which I was quoted in video on CNBC as saying, was this virus does not impress me any more than all of the viruses that show up every winter that bother me. And, I said that because at that time, the COVID virus, a cold virus, was being declared basically not a non-issue for children and a relatively low issue for the younger, healthy people, and really only a risk for the higher age people. And I went, that's just like flu, which I deal with every year. So that was my premise then. The question you've asked now is interesting. If I were I to look back at everything I've watched carefully in the last few months since January, would I change my opinion? And the answer is yes, but only slightly. You have to ask yourself why certain things have happened, and I don't know the answer. The most impressive question that I have, and you should think about this, is in a country of 1.45 billion, which is China, why is everybody in Wuhan walking around without a mask right now? Why did all 11 million of them test negative? And they did test them because in China they can make that happen. Where in the United States we apparently have, 100 million people infected, a third of our population. Why is that? I don't know the answer. And why is it that Hong Kong was doing very, very well until its democracy protests started getting out of hand and China started wrapping up large portions of their population and sending them to their, gulags in China. And then all of a sudden, a new strain of COVID virus showed up in Hong Kong and shut them down. I don't know why that happened. I was not aware that COVID viruses mutate. They haven't in the past. And yet we have 8 mutated versions popping up all around the world. So you hear what I'm going with? I'm going down the theory that this was a deliberate release. I've heard our Secretary of State say that. I've heard the President of the United States say that this was a man-made virus. I live in North Carolina, and we already know from the University of North Carolina that the COVID virus that is showing up now.
Bob, I think something might have happened to your audio, sir. Can everybody else hear Bob okay?
Somebody jump in and say I'm still on.
You sound like you're talking to us from a tin, very deep in a tin can. Can somebody else say something, please? Let me hear somebody else's voice.
Mic check. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Bob. Forgive me. I talk to us again real quick.
No, I'm on a cell phone, so it's quite possible.
Yeah, you might want to maybe unplug and replug your mic or something. Something's happened to you. Bob, while you're working on that, let me respond really quickly by saying, yeah, absolutely. This is when you came to talk to us, you asked some questions that frankly I think still don't have really good answers, and you gave us a great deal of perspective on the sort of the specific occurrences, things like what happened with the nursing homes in New Jersey, and some perspective around the severity of the coronavirus as compared to the seasonal flu and such. That I mean, for me at least, were extraordinarily helpful in allowing me to gauge the risk. So I wish your mic were working a little bit better. I'd love to hear more of what you have to say. But I'm not surprised to hear that your positions are substantially similar. Maybe the events have moved the needle a little bit, but I feel the same way. I think that we may be arguing over sort of decimal points, but qualitatively, I think that your analysis was and remains pretty sound. Bob, give us just a word or two. Let's see if we can hear you again.
All right, test.
Yes, I can hear you just fine now.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to log on with my other computer. I'm on the phone now.
Okay.
But the Secretary of State said, we know this is a man-made virus. The University of North Carolina, where I live, have said, we sent the virus to Wuhan, but it didn't look like what's coming out now. Hong Kong, which was doing great and then protested for democracy, suddenly had a new outbreak of a different strain. My personal opinion is historians are going to look back on this with or without President Trump in office to say, this was not an accident. This was deliberate. And the biggest question you've got to ask yourself is, why is a country with 1.45 billion people in it having no infections anymore? And Wuhan is walking around without masks, and 11 million people were tested with no cases. I don't know the answer.
It's certainly at least a fair question. Bob, thank you so much for coming back and talking to us. It's a real. I hadn't obviously been able to look at the list, but I hadn't seen you in a few weeks, and I'm delighted to have you back on the back at the meetup.
So I've got a question for Bob. So
yes, please do.
I'm amateur COVID, paying attention to every article I can read kind of guy. What I'm reading is that China, from the beginning, was significantly and continues to significantly either underreport or not report. So can we even trust the data we're seeing?
Great question. And
they're not inclined to report anyway, right?
So wait, it's interesting. The CDC website makes a very important point in small lettering at the bottom of their website that says, please be advised that when we report cases, we are reporting positive tests, not people and not sick people. And be advised that we test the same person 3, 4, and 5 times. So the cases which are deliberately being reported by the media as if they were people are not.
Wait a minute. So those aren't unique individuals? People are being counted more than once?
People are being counted routinely more than once, especially when they're in the hospital.
Hey, Jason, I'm going to interject here. I'm going to call a timeout, training timeout. I am deliberately not watching the news right now, so I don't have to listen to this.
Oh, fair enough. All right.
We're going into dangerous territory here, so I suggested a detour.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we move on with updates, and thanks for that. It's topic of interest and whatnot, but thanks for that. And let's move on. Bob, thank you very much for the update. I'd like to ask, is there anybody else who's a previous attendee who would like to update us and tell us what you're up to?
Yeah, actually, I'll jump in and make a positive comment.
Sure.
Circling back to the voiceover thing, I actually was going to pursue a career as a voice actor. That's what we're called, voice actors, not voiceover. And it's very much acting. So when Bob was talking about having somebody who believes in the project, it's also a lot of acting. So you can act like you believe in the project and project that in your voice. But the voiceover industry is a very interesting one. It's a way that people are working from home, working independently. There's voiceover work across the spectrum. So even us military guys could voice over a training video for the Department of Defense, for example. So I'll pick on Brian Nowak. Good to see you, Brian. So as a submariner, if he was going to narrate a video about how to manage the atom, he knows it, so he can actually project the kind of voice that the trainees would want to hear. But it's a fascinating industry. It really is.
Jim, did you ever find work in voiceover?
Beyond our Lego stop motion movies that we've made as a family, no.
You've mentioned those more than once.
Yeah, and by the way, one of our movies has the Naval Academy's 5 basic responses hidden in it.
Oh, nice.
You can catch that with a lookout guy on a Coast Guard ship. Anyway, I could do Darth Vader really well into a pan, you all might. Circling back to the COVID college discussion. So my son just arrived in Scotland at St. Andrews on Sunday, beginning a 14-day quarantine. So, not to make this a detailed COVID discussion, but Scotland is managing the problem their way, and they have invited international students to come back in large numbers. And interestingly, the countries that require quarantine have to quarantine, but those who don't are going to be sending kids in with no quarantine. And really, when you look at it, they're just as likely to have exposure probably as most American kids are. So it's just a very interesting study on how, American campuses are going through this already and they're shutting down, but just our son's in a kind of a unique situation in Scotland where they're mandating this quarantine. Mental health is suffering, the food sucks, they can't go outside. So there's a whole nother backside of quarantining these kids. But, we as parents are just sitting here biting our nails, trying to.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Kids survive.
Jim, I'm trying to picture St. Andrews. I have this mental image, up on a cliff with a gray seascape in front of it, blah blah blah. But what's it like out there?
It's at sea level, but it is on the North Sea. It's actually, I think, the Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling borrowed a lot of St. Andrews in the Harry Potter books.
Gotcha.
And University of Edinburgh and Glasgow. There's houses. Yeah. They have a crest, and they have a Latin saying, and they have house competitions. They wear red robes. It's a ancient gray stone university. They survived the bubonic plague. So
really,
I think they'll be okay.
I think they can handle COVID. Yeah.
14 was when they were established. But anyway, if you have kids, the overseas UK universities are pretty great universities. So Trinity in Dublin, Edinburgh, Glasgow, of course Oxford, Cambridge, and they like international students because we pay more money than the kids in the UK. But
are there very many international students?
Yeah.
Is your son in the company of a lot of expats?
Yeah. So St. Andrews, I heard a number like 40% international, and of that maybe Americans.
Wow.
Which if you want a foreign experience, having Americans all around the place may not be what you want. But anyway, if you have kids that are getting ready for college or may be getting ready for college down the road, take a look at these international universities. Canada is another college industry that's cheaper and just as high quality. So maybe not limit your scope to just the U.S. And then the third topic would be circling back to Doug Norman's financial independence discussion. We are in our own situation here. And we thought we had everything figured out, and we just got handed a foundation repair bill for a new Corvette cost. So no matter what you plan for, stand by for very unexpected surprises. So having that cushion built up, that's just probably the best piece. Be ready for big, huge surprises like very expensive foundation repairs. But
amen, brother. Yeah. I remember you mentioned that last time, because I remember you made that Corvette comparison, and at the time I remember thinking that even if you buy the new Corvette, you're still going to need the foundation.
Yeah. It was really disappointing. Lesson learned for home buyers. The inspector. It was 5 years old when we bought it. It's now 15 years old. We've been in it for 10. The inspector found nothing, and it's seasonal movement of clay soil. So in the winter, water's somehow getting under the house. It expands. And then in the summer, we have, in this climate here in Northern California, there's no rain all summer. So it all dries out, and the house, the house subsides. So the house has been doing this for 10 years, and we're on a hill. So it's probably doing this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And we let it go for a while, probably waited just a little bit too long. Yeah, we got to get it fixed now. So don't put off something that needs to be done in the house, and or it was a short sale, so we couldn't come back to the buyer and, you know, pursue any kind of compensation. But anyway, yeah, thanks for letting me.
Cool. Well, as at sea, so ashore, huh? Jim, thanks for the update. Is there anybody else who's been around and would like to offer some sort of an update?
Hey, Jace, I'll just piggyback on the voiceover piece I ran into from a kind of different angle. So
sounds like Matt Murphy.
Oh yeah, that's me. Sorry,
Hey.
Matt Murphy, 95. But so my transition efforts, because I started my transition pre-COVID, getting out of the Navy, but then COVID hit, and of course, searching for a job changed its character a lot, right? Mm. So I realized how well can someone deliver over the air on a webcam, et cetera. And I was struck by a different networking group where someone got on and she just came across very, very well. She could speak to an issue, but there was a little more emotion that you could pick up on what she was saying and how she was saying it. So it turns out, not so surprising in hindsight, she's a voiceover actress. But the thing I just wanted to bring forward to everybody here is she actually works as a voiceover coach, not I'm sure also in the professional universe of teaching other would-be voiceover actors and actresses, but she actually does professional consulting for folks that just want to get better in how they communicate and how do they bring certain voices out in certain situations. And I had one session where I haven't really, you know, had the opportunity to pursue it too much more, but to me it was a fascinating conversation, and she's a fantastic person. If anybody wants me to connect you, I will. But in terms of thinking about how has COVID changed things that we all go through, not only I think from a niche little transition interviewing context, I think that there is an increased role for how well we can communicate to each other without having some of the cues that we have from being in person. You know, I got my hand moving, you can't even see on the screen in terms of, you know, the body language piece. But I think there are ways that folks that are really, really good actually bring a lot through their voice that some of the rest of us, I think, will in turn over time probably learn a little bit of. But for a few of us that know that resource is out there, it's kind of cool. But in terms of a more classic update, yeah, I'm 3 weeks into my really being on the job with the company I'm with, and I finally hit that moment of realizing how much slower some of the things move in a civilian company versus being in the military, where, hey, that's dorked up, why don't we go fix that? And you kind of get the pump the brakes responses. And so I've kind of hit that emotional recognition and being not in the military, which is healthy and good and opportunity to grow, if not a little frustrating a couple weeks. But anyway, I also want to put a thanks out publicly to Jason. Jason basically gave me a free hour of his time. I'm getting into the technical universe that Jason's got an immense amount of experience in, and Jason gave me a really, really great over the shoulder set of advice on how to think about his almost former universe. We won't call it former yet, but definitely something that Jason's really good at thinking and framing things and talking with folks. So I just wanted to publicly say thanks, Jace, for that. It was really helpful.
Well, you're real welcome. And Matt, you just said something and kind of blew by it, but it kind of went off like a flashbulb in my mind here. I mean, you spend a lot of time in meetings and whatnot and at quarters, and getting practiced in presenting yourself in person. This is different, right? I mean, this is the new normal, at least for now. And it maybe it's my own shortcoming, but it never really hit me until you just opened your mouth that this new, to most people, new method of presenting ourselves to groups and sort of doing business is 100% coachable, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, and different enough that coaching is probably, at least for many of us, who don't, who get less practice than others, totally in order, right? It totally makes sense to spend a few bucks and get a few hours of strong coaching in how to put yourself across in this completely different medium.
I would definitely recommend anybody that wants to kind of take it to, or just examine where they're at and maybe take it to another level. But at least I think it's a great question to ask ourselves: how do we adapt to the environment and still find ways to leverage our skills and collaborate well? So just a data point, but plus one that one with you.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, well, let's see. I think we've any other updates before we move on to intros? All right. Well, I don't even know if we have any new guys on the screen, so I'll ask you guys. Do we have any visitors who are joining us for the first time?
Yeah, Jason, I am Brian Nowak.
Brian Nowak, no kidding. Is it really your first? I'm hard to believe. I'm amazed that it's the first time we've seen you. Well, welcome, man. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Jason, this already, even though I've only been exposed to about 40 minutes of this has been a really interesting conversation, and
Thank you.
It looks like a lot of great people on this. I can't even imagine when
gets bigger. Yeah, sometimes we see 50-odd
small
today,
one this week. What it's like when it's a little bit bigger. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
so thank you.
Give us your intro, man.
Yeah. So, class of '96, USNA. I am getting ready to retire here on the 1st of December. So transition coming up, and a little bit truth in advertising. I was actually on terminal leave. I started that on March 13th. And was doing pretty well in terms of getting interviews and talking to a lot of people, and then the month of April just kind of fell apart due to COVID.
What industry are you trying to get into?
And I'm up here in Groton, Connecticut. I'm a submariner, retiring out of a submarine squadron job here, and although I want to stay up here in Groton, Connecticut, I'm trying my darndest to avoid General Dynamics, Electric Boat, or Sonalysts, which are, just about, I would say a good half of retiring officers who are retiring and want to stay in this area tend to go there. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to avoid that. So that might be limiting my, kind of job search scope to some degree. Anyways, I took the extension for 6 months, and now it's December 1st. I think the prospects are looking a lot better. I would love to get into some sort of financial services industry, in operations, though. Some other avenues I'm looking at are like high reliability in healthcare, health industry, manufacturing, and energy sectors. So there's some opportunities there. I may end up having to commute to one of the big cities around, like Hartford, New Haven, or Providence. Not ideal, but I'm willing to bite that bullet so that I can have a job that pays the bills.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to stay in the sort of Connecticut area?
Yeah, we do. We love it here. I've got my oldest. He's a junior in college. My second is a junior in high school, and my youngest is in 5th grade. So I got the gamut of kids, and they pretty much have said that they don't want to move anymore. And, and I don't blame them. We've been around. I served with Jim Ronka out in Yokosuka, Japan. So great to see an old friend on this. And I'm only looking at 9 names right now, but I can't imagine there's not at least one other person I know pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll if you come back, you'll find that 96 is heavily represented at Ringknocker. Bugs out there. Chris, I thought I heard your voice earlier.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah,
there you go. There's one at least.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, welcome, man.
love your
go ahead,
photo
please.
on Zet the Parchi.
Well, Tennyson's usually on here, and
yeah, and he's got the Perchy in his background often.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I've been exchanging some LinkedIn messages with him too lately. So he's
Yeah.
I clicked something to change some setting in my LinkedIn, and it obviously sent something out to the world, and I'm getting a lot of feedback. It's all been great though. I've loved it all. So I appreciate everyone.
Well, make sure you join the gosh, I just jumped the term here. The forum, the Ringknocker forum on LinkedIn. That's how a number of us keep in touch, kind of between meetups, and it's a good way for you to kind of get your stuff out there so that so your shipmates can help out. We're a pretty active community when it comes to helping out, for sure.
Excellent.
Hey, Brian, it's Susie,
Yeah.
and one recommendation for you on the LinkedIn side, if you feel like you're being kind of inundated with stuff, not from friends, but just kind of random stuff, is shall we say, the web crawl is alive and well within there, but it takes it a few days. So generally, if I have a role change or something like that, I'll make it live, but I'll go in a couple days later and delete the post. And that keeps the solicitors out of my inbox.
Interesting.
So just something to, and that's really become an issue in LinkedIn in recent, just in the last year or two. It's kind of a new shift, but that's a good way to let your friends and your industry partners and colleagues know where you're at, but maybe keep the vendors and the web crawlers who are, kind of spamming you via LinkedIn on the outs.
Oh, very great. Yeah, thanks, Susie. I appreciate that.
Hey, regarding LinkedIn, those of you who are active on it, is anybody else experiencing a bit of LinkedIn fatigue, a la Facebook fatigue, and/or wondering maybe why you're on LinkedIn? Unless you're actively job seeking, has anybody actually reaped anything from LinkedIn?
So
Actually,
go
ahead.
I was going to say, so for me personally, as a marketing professional, I mean, social media becomes a little bit of a job for me. And LinkedIn has the ability, when you're doing social advertising, to identify by role, which is a little bit different than in Facebook. But I'll tell you, except when I'm looking for a job or I'm trying to find a vendor, I go there and pull information. I rarely sort of look at it regularly. And I feel bad because sometimes someone will message me and I don't even have the messages turned on. I've been on it more with the group here because it kind of just puts people in contact and it's a way to chat really easily. But I personally haven't used it that much. But there are some attributes that it has on the marketing side to get, if I'm looking for a lighting designer at a very specific firm and for them to see a message from my company, I can actually select to have people from those companies see stuff. So it gives me some selection there.
This is Gabby Blocher. I'm new. It's my first time. Hi. I'm class of 98, Marine Corps. Hello, everyone. Thanks for putting this on. Seems really exciting, other than the political discussion at the beginning. I hope we don't do that a lot going forward. Yeah, so I want to jump in about the LinkedIn thing. I definitely have entered a point where in my career, I am solidly in the camp of I do a little of this, a little of that kind of stuff. My career is a bunch of different things. I do freelance work. I'm a consultant. I'm a contractor. I own a small business and might buy another business. So I love LinkedIn because I can just go. It's very I think it's really along the lines of what we were saying, Susie. It could be very targeted for specific purposes that I have that are many and varied based on the things that I'm doing and whatever one of my endeavors I'm looking to engage in. And I'm also, I think at this point too, I'm somebody who my network is pretty broad. for various reasons. Like I went to have this wonderful network that we all have here, and then I went to business school after grad school, and I've done a number of different things in my career. So people are looking for me, and I'm not on Facebook. So if they want to find me, it's a good place to be available and help folks network of various types. So yeah, I like it, and it's very targeted. I'm not like hanging out on LinkedIn. I'm like going there once every day, every other day, seeing a few really specific things, doing a few really specific things, and getting off.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I found it disappointing that the politics are leaking into LinkedIn as well. And I especially
I've seen that too. Yeah.
I especially dislike retired flag and general officers, especially Navy flags, making comments. Stavridis particularly, I'll be honest with you. I do not like him posting about what he thinks about the world. I think it's inappropriate and unprofessional, and I'm just getting tired of seeing it. You know, I get a lot of LinkedIn job announcements, which is just kind of a good function of LinkedIn. You know, I've been able to target specific companies, industries, National Park Service for one. I kind of want to be a park ranger at one time, so I get to see announcements that are targeted to me. Every once in a while, you know, people are looking at your profile. Companies, you know, want to know more about you, and I'm like, are people really harvesting Are HR folks going out and harvesting LinkedIn for people to work for them?
Yes,
they are.
That is for sure they are. My experience with LinkedIn is that it is there's a barrier to entry when it comes to sort of reaching out to people en masse and doing sort of bulk operations on LinkedIn. There's a barrier to entry that is somewhat higher than exists on the other social media, Twitter, for example. LinkedIn is they control that a bit more. LinkedIn advertising is more expensive than advertising, for example, on Facebook or Twitter. And you know, so like anything else, when you make it more expensive, you get less of it. So I think that has kept LinkedIn somewhat cleaner than the other social media. But you know, as time goes on, prices come down. People figure out how to game the system. And so, as you said, you know, things that you wish weren't there start leaking in, right? And that's been my experience, and it sounds like everybody else's as well.
That's a bummer, because people will say, well, just ignore the comments, ignore the discussion, and like a moth to a flame, I kind of like get attracted to watching people go after each other. Our class page is on fire, right? Well, we've gone through cycles, but our class has a Facebook page. I don't know if anybody else's, you know, academy classes, college classes. And it has, I tell you what, it is almost closed down because of people going after each other. You know, class loyalty only runs so deep when you get into some really sensitive topics. And I just, you know, I can't take my eyes off of it. I don't want to see it, but seeing people go after each other, it's just like watching a train wreck. So I'm not one to
in your family
to look away. You know, it's like my brother and sister fighting at the dinner table. So, you know, some people are able to filter that out. I am unfortunately not one that can filter out those kinds of discussions, because I just it's like, what's going to happen next?
Well, sometimes it's plain hard. I mean, today's a good example, right? I mean, you know, however you might feel about the politics of the thing, you know, like, you know, COVID is COVID, and there are political implications, and it does affect us. And so it can be a challenge sometimes to have a conversation about the non-political aspects of a thing without sort of other opinions leaking in. And it's just, it is a, how shall we say, it's a challenging time. And I think that at the end of the day, the skills that we all learned sort of as JOs in the wardroom, you know, this sort of how to keep things friendly, right? We can't fight together if we can't at least, I mean, we can't fight on the same side if we can't get along, right? So putting a real priority on the getting along part is a skill that I wish more of us, you know, retain beyond retirement, for sure.
So you gave me a quick lead in. Am I still audible on this group? Give me a yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to just, as the old guy here, I want to throw an answer to the LinkedIn question out there. I know nothing about social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, but I use them both. And when we last spoke, I was just a guy who was selling a book. But since then, I'm retired from my active family physician practice. And I told my wife, I'm not going to do anything for the next 6 months. I retired in February. And I just put a profile out there on LinkedIn that said, retired family physician. Well, in the last 6 months since February when I retired, I am now a paid medical consultant to 4 companies with equity in 2 who found me on Facebook. So
and they came and sort of solicited you and
they knocked on my door.
Wow.
I'm having so much fun doing it. So it's a resource. It's useful.
Yeah. Bob, do you, I have to imagine that having the books out there probably turned a corner for you. Would you agree, or?
So I hope so. All of the media people tell you books give you credibility. It adds to your resume. But for those of you that are listening that might be wanting to look for investment opportunities, my email is buds81@aol.com. I don't make any money off of anything that I'm helping people with, but there are some tremendous soon-to-be apps with a company called Pharma Sentinel that I'm an advisor to, pharmasentinel.com out of London, that is getting ready to make the medical world safer. And they found me. And it's just kind of fun that they knock on my door and go, hey, doc, we need a doctor in America. And okay, I'm a doctor in America. and that's how it happened. So
that's great.
They're going to launch their product in 3 weeks, and it's going to be really, really very good. And they're accepting investments, not through me, and I make nothing from it. But things like that, I don't mind sharing with our group here, because if there's people out there that want to know how LinkedIn can help you build business opportunities, I'll give you examples, or find investment opportunities, I'll give you examples.
Well, I mean, for those who are interested, LinkedIn factors heavily into Ringknocker. So there is a system that I developed. It's a technology platform that, for lack of a better word, surfs LinkedIn and identifies Ringknocker candidates, candidates for participation in the group, based on not only are they former military officers, but also what schools did they go to? Do they have classmates who are already classmates at the various schools who are already members of the group? Did they work at organizations that, right? So the goal with the system is to find people who have as many connections as possible to people who are already inside the group, in order to to maximize the potential cohesion of the marginal new member, right? That the goal is to find new members who are really going to have a great experience with the people who are already there. And that is, it's based entirely on the connection information and whatnot that is, that's sort of publicly available on LinkedIn. And, just based on our collective experience together over the last 6 months or so, it seems to be fairly effective. So that is a usage of LinkedIn it's a little deeper, than sort of just looking at a profile, but it's a usage of the same data that you see when you go on the screen, and I think is I would like to believe is entirely positive, right? I mean, we're not selling anything here but camaraderie, and it seems to work pretty well.
I don't know if there's any better way to target. If you're in marketing, it's a little different, but if you're doing cold calls or you're doing cold outreach or any of those things, there's probably no better way to target, assuming that your prospects are on LinkedIn. If you're a homeowner or something.
And assuming you know what you're looking for.
Not all on LinkedIn, but yeah, there's no better way. I mean, I do placement. I mean, and so I'm calling business owners all the time, and I can generate a really good list of people to call. I can export it out of LinkedIn, get it into Zoom Info, which has lower quality positional data, but comes with phone numbers and stuff. and get a guy a job, you know, and without LinkedIn, that's a hell of a lot harder.
Chris, do you have a sort of a process that you've developed that is sort of unique to your business, or do you do what do you do?
I mean, so most of what I do is sales training and consulting, right? And so I probably have $800 or $900 per month going into LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. And this is you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator?
None of that's for advertising. You know, it's a combination of Sales Navigator, content generation tools, coaching, some automation. Tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. You're not supposed to use automation on LinkedIn. Which, I mean, it sounds like, Jason, you've baked up your own form of that, and but I wasn't able to code my own. I had to go find some tools. But it's unbelievable the data that's available out there, almost for free. And most of the other investments going into these third-party tools, I think over time that's going to probably change. I mean, if you're Microsoft / LinkedIn, I mean, they probably want to be capturing more of that $900 a month I'm spending than the 10% they're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my experience with LinkedIn is that the specific nature of the information that you get is just incredibly useful, right? I mean, if I can say that person A and person B were in Harvard Business School at the same time, I mean, that is that's a connection, right? It's a potentially significant connection. If they both worked for the same small company in the same year, again, that's a significant connection, and I can say with a fairly high degree of confidence that putting them together, unless they hated one another, putting them together is going to be at least a pleasant surprise, probably for both of them. So that's you just can't get that from Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else.
Yeah, to your point, if I'm placing a Naval Academy grad in a city in Daytona, Florida, the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else, and I do plenty of other things too, but the first thing I'm going to do is find every single Naval Academy grad who's in a leadership position within 30 miles of Daytona. I can do that really fast. I won't find some because they're not on LinkedIn, but I can do that really fast.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Jason.
Go ahead.
No, please. To be fair to LinkedIn, I was considering, I still am, an assistant superintendent position at one of the Battlefield Monument Commission cemeteries in Europe. It's a really odd job, but they hire American citizens and et cetera. And I wanted to just talk to somebody about the job position. And I went out and I searched for a Service Academy graduate, happened to find one that also graduated from Monterey. And I just cold called the guy, sent out a connection request on LinkedIn and gave a little, I wrote a comment, made the connection and said what we have in common, that I'm just interested in the job. And he's like, hey, send me your resume and I'll forward it up the chain. I mean, totally outside of the USA Jobs application cycle. He was ready on the spot to take my resume and send it back channels through the hiring committee. And I wasn't ready at the time. I have to know French at ILR level 2, which I'm way far away from. But anyway, that was a very good capability that LinkedIn offered. I couldn't take advantage of it, but I would say, to the comments made earlier that, Chris, you made the comment of, using kind of your analytical dot connecting to look at where people graduated from, work experience. He was a retired Army officer, West Point grad. So instantly I was able to make a connection with him, and it could have turned out to be very much in my favor. So yeah, LinkedIn, I'm not totally bashing LinkedIn. It is
well, that's
excellent.
That's almost an ideal LinkedIn story right there. And when we talk about the kind of the effect of the noise in the system, let me offer you the latest business opportunity, blah blah blah. The real tragedy of the new injection of noise into the LinkedIn system is that it obscures that kind of a connection, right? Because that person is he's just less likely to respond to you if your message is one of 100 that he received, in the last 10 minutes. Well, let's see. So now, forgive me. Like I said, I'm having a little trouble reading my screen right now. But we had our most recent introduction was not a complete introduction, ma'am. We didn't get to hear your backstory, and forgive me if I can't read your name on the screen, and it's been a few minutes ago and I can't remember it. Would you mind completing your introduction for us? Gabrielle, I think your name was. Or do we still have her? We may have lost her. Okay.
No, I'm here. Sorry, I had myself double muted because I was eating dinner and stuff.
Yeah. So what's the rest of the story? Tell us a bit more about yourself.
You threw me off because no one's called me ma'am since 2003 when I got out of the Marine Corps. Ma'am. That's funny. Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, I'm sure I'm older than you are.
I don't care. I don't care at all. It's nice. I wish more people called me ma'am. I have three. Yeah. So I guess the only other contextual part of the story I'd like to add, I think I said a bit about my background, class of 98, Marine Corps, logistics. I went to business school at Columbia after that. And then I've been a management consultant and doing a bunch of different things since then, including working at a couple of startups. One startup was founded by one of my classmates, a really cool organization called Nuru International. My buddy Jay Karaman founded it. He was also class of 98 in Marine Corps. But yeah, the reason no one calls me ma'am is because a huge part of my life right now is dealing with 3 small children who are yelling at me in rude ways a lot. Right now I live in Ohio, I live in Cincinnati, and our kids are in public school, and everything's remote, and I have a 2nd grader and a 1st grader. So there's no way to have a 2nd and 1st grader doing remote schooling.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
It means an adult has to either be hired or not be take time off of professional endeavors in order to stand there by their side at during the entire quote unquote school day. And this is it's such a moving target. We're just starting this now. We developed these little learning pods with the other parents and are moving kids from one house to another. And COVID is a big part of my life. So our city's reaction to the disease and what it means to be a pandemic. That's why I would say, sorry to bring it up again, but hard to have sort of an academic, this is an interesting topic discussion about it, because it's affecting my children's and my daily, not as no one's tested positive for the actual pandemic, but it's deeply affected the way we're living our lives.
Where in the country are you again?
Ohio, Cincinnati.
In Ohio. Yeah. I have a client in Boston, and my team is spread across the Midwest. We do data system implementation, and a few of my people are in Ohio, and so I
nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lockdowns are everywhere, right? It's everybody is. Everybody tells, sings a similar song, and it's interesting to me that it sounds like you and your neighbors have figured out some sort of self-organization, right? You're working your way through the problem.
We have, but it's a whole thing, because we've done that, but then a bunch of the schools didn't do it, and we're in an urban district, and a bunch of the other parents didn't do that, and. Mm-hmm. It's just a really charged and difficult time. And there's a lot of as much as there always is in our culture, there's judgment, there's guilt, and then there's just I'm managing 2 text strings of these huge groups of parents who are now my best friends and taking care of my children all day long and every day. And it's rough. It's rough.
What do you think
miss
the effect is?
just running businesses.
Oh yeah, right. That would be easy. What's the effect on the kids of all this? I mean, they're obviously having an odd school year, compared to previous years and other kids. I mean, are they? What's their experience? Do you think?
I mean, so I'm gonna try to be ma'am from 2003 and not get emotional in answering your question and like start crying. But there are varying things. Like it's actually quite like they go to a school that's kind of new and that has the classes are a bit too big. So there's this really lovely thing where my children now they're getting homeschooled. I'm sure there are folks on the call who have experience with homeschool. People love homeschooling. And so my kids are like accidentally getting homeschooled. So they're just with this little tiny group of just 3 kids, and they're going to get a bunch of attention from their classmates and from the people who are the parents who are helping to educate them, which is just quite lovely. But then, yeah, so I think it'll be good for my children, if I dare say. It's cool. Like really hard for us parents, but my kids are going to have a nice month.
Yeah,
if it's
memorable,
only a month.
Right? They're going to.
They are.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you come see us again. As I've mentioned a few times,
Sure.
This is an unusual session, but it's always interesting and always a lot of fun. Do we have any other new attendees in the group today?
Yeah, Jason. Hey, this is Roger Ouimet from.
Hey, Roger. Hey, class of '93. All right. Well, introduce yourself, sir. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, you bet. I'll follow up on Gabrielle. Do you go by Gabrielle or Gabby? I'm not sure which.
I try to be formal when I introduce myself and say Gabrielle, but it always becomes Gabby. So Gabby.
Hey, Gabby.
Any Naval Academy person, it's Gabby.
Gotcha. So I'm from the other side of the state. I'm in Northeast Ohio. Shaker Heights is where I currently live.
Wow!
And moving soon next month. So listen to Jim, your story about home inspection nightmares. Thankfully, the home inspection for the home I'm buying on the lake shores of Lake Erie in Euclid, Ohio, is going great. All the repairs are being done by the seller at minimal challenge. So I'm looking forward to moving into that. So. And then the other kind of relatable for me, Gabby, is my kids all live with their mom down much closer to Bob Adams. Bob, good to see you. You and I used to be together in the Triangle chapter. I moved out of Cary, North Carolina, moved out of there last fall. But they're all doing in the Wake County public school system. They're doing full-on virtual. The kids are they've got live class with some of their grade school teachers. It's very similar to what my son who's going to UNC Charlotte is dealing with. Some of the live lectures, some of the computer-based training, all of that good stuff. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So Cleveland, thankfully, we've gotten better. We're no longer what Ohio is calling red level 3. We've dropped down to orange level 2. So not so bad.
Now, do I hear this? You don't sound like you're from Ohio. Where are you from originally?
No, so as I said, right, so I moved out of Cary, North Carolina. I actually lived in North Carolina for 15 years, and I'm originally from Greater Boston.
There you go.
Grew an hour south of Boston, and if I weren't doing this and the game wasn't postponed due to the Wisconsin protests that are going on across Major League Baseball and NBA tonight, I'd either be watching the Celtics play the Raptors or I'd be watching the Red Sox play the Jays, or both, back and forth. Those are my teams for sure, but I'm starting to like the Cleveland teams as well. So.
Hey, Roger, we've got Yaz's son playing for the Giants out here in San Francisco. So my wife's a Giants fan, and I was born in Boston, Red Sox fan. I used to worship Yaz. And it's like last season, it's like, wait, Yastrzemski. What? There's Yastrzemski on the Giants. I love the Giants.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And when he hit a home run to dead center field at Fenway last year, oh my gosh, that you could have heard the grandparents on the radio in '83. So yeah, it was something. But
you're one of those guys who can listen to a baseball game on the radio.
I've been known
That's a skill.
My dad brought me up listening to Johnny Most, listening to Celtics games on the radio while watching the Bird and McHale and Parrish on the TV, but the TV was on silent. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely you got to know the game to do that. I've never had that skill myself. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, no, but I moved up here to Greater Ohio for a job. I work for Zelia Pharmaceuticals. I'm the strategy and projects manager for the site, and so we're working on a lot of infectious disease launches. We just earned our FDA approval for one of them back in the early spring, late winter kind of a thing. And we're going to be doubling in size. So, hearing a lot of the discussion about LinkedIn, our marketing team is really going crazy with recruiting films and postings. And then I just repost them to my entire network to try to find talent. And actually about 3 months ago, I hired an 89 grad to work for me. He's my operational excellence lead for the site. So not so bad there.
Roger, who's the 89er? He's my classmate.
Mark Metzger.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I know that name.
Yeah. Well, Mark Metzger was he was CEO of the car, and then he was Chang on Enterprise. He was a management consultant in oil and gas, and then he was a general manager for a sterilization company in Chicago before I hired him to come out here to Cleveland. And he grew up in Cleveland too. So
I think he might have visited us once or twice. His name is extremely familiar to me. I'll have to check later.
Okay. Well, he's one of my contacts, as you can imagine, in LinkedIn.
Excellent. Yeah, nice.
But yeah, good stuff. So I'm still in the reserves. I got out of active duty in 2000, but got 27 plus now going. And actually, I'm on orders right now. Tomorrow's my last day of manual training. We're doing computer-based training. So this whole virtual learning for my kids, I've been doing the same thing. We've been learning how to do port operations because I'm in charge of the reserve enterprise for Military Sealift Command Far East. And so we've got a whole cadre of 62 students and senior mentors. Wow. Me and this SSO, he's a strategic sealift officer, 95-year group. He graduated from the Merchant Marine Academy. The two of us are the two senior mentors that are making sure we've got a YNSN and an ITSN who've never even been to a pier to, we've got chiefs, senior chiefs that have done this stuff for quite some time and other Expeditionary Report Unit COs. So we've got a wide range in the class. And so it's pretty good, at least giving them the flavor of what port operations is like, if only on a computer. So
weird times. Holy cow. Well, that's the world we live in, right? Everything that possibly can be is remote.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, welcome, man. Another class of '93er. You guys, '96 and '92 are heavily represented here at Ringknocker. So it's nice to have another one of you. Have we got any other new attendees on the call today? That's it. We actually worked our way through the list. Well, in that case, I think we had 3 of you folks. Well, welcome again, and thanks for joining us today. I hope you all come see us again when things are a bit more normal, as normal as they ever are here. So let's see. We're at 9:14. I kind of feel like we spread our discussion period throughout the call. So let me ask: is there anything anybody would like to poke at? And if not, yes, go ahead, please.
Well, Jason, are you so class 96 minus 1? Y'all got your reunion. You got a sizable reunion coming up this year, right?
No, we don't. That's been that has been, I think, officially canceled at this point. And honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. We are actually we have to go for 30.
Yeah, Chris, I'm hoping all this is done by next year so that our 25th comes.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Salvage that one.
Yeah.
These clowns. That'd be great.
Well,
we could also talk about how the service academies are flexing this year. I'm getting updates on Navy, and there's I think 2 companies maybe being put over at St. John's. I think Air Force is putting cadets into hotels in Colorado Springs, and there's going to be some knock-on effects probably in the fleet. I mean, you could argue about how the service academy experiences groom officers, right? There's pluses, there's minuses, but I would be curious to kind of study these year groups and look at their fleet experience to see if right. Living at St. John's if you were.
Are you serious? There are
Yeah.
midshipmen living at St. John's?
Yeah, I think it was in the Capitol, wasn't it, that they signed an MOU because their students aren't there. I think originally they were just not going to bring them back. I think they were.
Oh, did they shut down? The Johnnies are all gone?
Well, there's a number. Yeah, and I think there's a
secondhand smoke doesn't count.
Maybe we'll actually beat them in croquet
Oh.
this year
now. No, come on. No, they're still going to feed us champagne.
Well, I mean, who lived at their sponsors their senior year? I mean, I kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
All intents and purposes.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I'm trying to process this. So this is really true. Like there are midshipmen living on in the St. John's dorms.
Well, I think they originally halted not bringing. I don't know does anyone know the groups that they were originally not going to bring back? There was just a percentage. I don't know if they were, but I guess they're going to bring them all back and use St. John's now. So I don't know if everyone's back. There was some group of people, maybe they were the grad students group that didn't come back.
Susie, what they did is they brought back all the first and second class, and then they brought back third class varsity athletes. But if you weren't a varsity athlete, you didn't come back for youngsters.
Oh, so it was the youngsters that they didn't bring back. Interesting. I was wondering how that worked. Okay.
And I don't think they've actually put out who's going to live at St. John's yet. I'm sure there'll be fierce competition for that.
yeah, I think. Wow.
Probably closer to class than 8th wing.
Probably so. But we were talking a minute ago about the the experience of sort of third graders being homeschooled for COVID. But I would argue that the difference in experience for a midshipman living in St. John's is probably more significant.
That'd be like a go-along stribbling walk for all the potential Marines.
Yeah. So can somebody, if my dad is still here, for his benefit, since he doesn't really know the whole St. John's Bancroft Hall story, can somebody explain in 30 seconds just what would be the significance of a midshipman living at St. John's?
It's the antithesis to an academy experience.
The exact opposite.
1960s Berkeley versus the Naval Academy.
Right across the street. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Do you throw candy to yourself now on a walk on March
I would relate it to
at yourself.
Yeah. On my first deployment as an ensign on a Tycho cruiser, I actually got put in the chief's mess for a month because we ran out of everything in Oak Country. And it was the absolute worst thing ever because, of course, you're not going to hang out in the chief's mess as an ensign. So,
oh God.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Hey, everybody, Michael Ray here. So I've been super quiet tonight because I've been incredibly entertained, and also I like to listen first. But this discussion makes me think of two things that are really, really front and center. One, a colleague of mine is putting out a book that comes out very soon called The Low Density University. And this, to me, resembles a strategy of keeping students distanced from one another to be able to continue essential operations, which is education. And I know I spoke a couple weeks ago about like COVID on campus, et cetera, but what we are seeing right now at service academies are going to be the successes and failures of bringing students back to campuses over the next few years. And this might be one of the strands of spaghetti that sticks to a wall. Another thing I think about is during my midshipman experience, I spent a year with my company 28 living in Ricketts Hall, and it felt like off-campus housing. And
why was that, Mike?
There were not enough spaces inside Bancroft due to renovation at the time, and a whole company got shuffled over there. And it was weird, had to make a couple extra minutes budgeted to walk over to campus to classes, et cetera, along Stribling and beyond. And yeah, there was a little bit of misbehavior, but it worked. And it wasn't like there were really significant data points that could be used in terms of like misconduct and other things that could like point to it. We just did it. And another thing, Jason, I'm so sorry to hear the root cause of your troubles this week. I have a long history of corneal abrasions and injuries. I'm so sorry that's happening to you. I hope you get better soon.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it is improving dramatically day by day. Honestly, my biggest problem right now is I didn't have backup glasses. I was so accustomed to using contacts that I just didn't have them, and so now I can't use contacts, and I'm legally blind without something. So I'm and because I'm in Indonesia and I have an odd prescription, it takes a week or 10 days to get glasses made in Jakarta and shipped over. So it's been an enforced period of introspection, shall we say. Thank you very much. Wow. Well, Mike, thanks for those thoughts. I guess the Naval Academy or any other service academy is where its midshipmen are, or cadets or what have you, right? Whether it's in Bancroft Hall or Ricketts Hall or on some far-flung shore, we are where we are. The institution comes with us, right?
This is Jason's father. Just a comment. Introspection is not something I remember about my son.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I don't want to dig too far into this, but the doctor was pretty plain that thinking about stuff causes eye movement. At the end of the day, even though your eyelid is the best bandage for your eye, you just want it still. So the instruction was to get into a low light situation and close my eyes and just kind of chill out. And so I've thank goodness I've got a meditative practice that's been extremely helpful over the past week. But really, I've taken time off in just about every way that you could imagine. So it's been nice. It's been a nice little kind of staycation, if you will. Enough of that. All right. Well, let's see. We're actually. I didn't think we were going to make it all the way, but we're actually almost at 9:30. We're getting there, and I do have a couple of minutes of admin remarks at the end. But do we have any other points of discussion that we'd like to bring up?
Anyone seen Army's schedule?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Has anyone seen Army's football schedule that just got released?
No. What do you know?
Come on, guys. Y'all didn't see. I just heard of, and West Pointer admitted it to me today. Abilene Christian, Citadel, Mercer. All
easy ones? Except us, obviously.
That's right. Well, they are playing BYU. That's who we're opening against. So, I guess we'll get a common denominator there to look at.
Yeah. I guess
well, Style right now. Sorry.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and close the floor for discussion. And just a couple of admin notes. Those of you who've been with us before, you've heard all this before. Normally, what would happen is a few hours after the call, you would be receiving a spreadsheet with contact information from everybody who's permitted me to share it, along with the chat log, the public chat log of this call. That's not going to happen this week, unfortunately. It's more than I can handle. So this week we're not going to do the typical sort of video excerpts and all that. I do expect that by next week I should be in a position where I can do the newsletter again. So I would reasonably expect that to come out on Tuesday, and then from there we'll just we'll pick up the the cycle as it was before. So I want to thank everybody just very, very much for being with us here today. I know it was weird, very ad hoc, but I deeply appreciate your support in this, and I hope it was still a great experience for you guys, and we're going to keep on doing it. So next week, same time, same story, and As far as speaker goes, let's see, what is next week? Say it again. Oh gosh. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So this is worth knowing. So for all you SWOs out there, and probably everybody else too, you'll remember Broadside, the comic strip. So next week we've got a super cool treat. This is just not something that happens every week. But Jeff Bacon, who is the creator of Broadside, is going to be joining us. He's going to be the featured speaker next week. John Cordell, who was last week's speaker, they collaborated on John's retirement checklist book, and Jeff has been kind enough to agree to come talk to us. So by all means, if you like Broadside, and I can't imagine you wouldn't, come join us. Jeff's going to give us some of the backstory and just kind of tell us the story of Broadside from the inside. So that's going to be super cool.
Hey,
so,
Jason, we might miss you telling your story about how you got to Bali. The last session, you were going to get into that and tell your little story, but maybe that can wait for the next time. But I still would love to hear how you ended up in Bali.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I will do that. Why don't we, I've got that period at the beginning before I get into the agenda where I usually have something to talk about. Why don't I do that next time or the time after? And it may be interesting. Certainly, it's been a life changer for me. So thanks for reminding me of that, Jim, and I'll for sure tell that story.
Yeah, there's a whole industry out there for those who are interested of people that retire overseas or move overseas to reduce costs and sort of live financially independent because it's so much cheaper. Mexico, Central America, Panama, Portugal's hot right now. International Living is a magazine that produces information on things like living in Bali, but it is sort of a whole micro industry for people who are looking to completely change gears and reduce expenses and be able to live on reduced income.
It is, and the key to the industry is the visa, right? And so Indonesia, for example, has a retirement visa, and I'm 50 now. That you become eligible to it at 55, so I'm not quite there yet. But it's an extremely attractive option. Certainly for anybody who's got a retirement income would be something at least worth taking a look at. So I'm happy to actually, now that you mention it, Jim, because a lot of us are in that window and do have retirement incomes, and that might actually be, something worth spending a little bit of time on, because the experience of living out here is it's extraordinary. It really is. And I think I just as a data point, I mentioned, seeing a specialist at a hospital and medication and blah, 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 and the whole thing costs $50. Try getting that in Toledo. So, all right. Well, we've actually made it now. It's 9:29. Guys, thank you again so very much for being here. As always, the absolute best part of my week. Love you all, and just thank you very, very much. So we'll see you next week. Have a great week. I always ask for the parting shot. Who's got it this week?
Well soon, Jason. I got it.
Okay. Oh, get well soon. Thank you very much.
That's the most important thing to say, buddy. Get well soon.
Amen, brother. All right, thanks, classmate. Y'all take care. Have a great weekend.